Alright, welcome everybody to the first of this plane geometry technical drawing series where we'll be learning about all things plane geometry. We're going to be dealing with lines, letterings, angles, dimension in triangles, circles, tangents, um, basically all of the plane geometry topics that you would learn in technical drawing. But in this video, we're just going to be dealing with setting up the drawing space really quickly. Alright, so if you have your AutoCAD open up, I'm using 2022. If you're using an older version, you'll still be able to follow along because all of these standard tools are being used. So let's go ahead and open up a new model space by clicking the plus. And first things first, we want to set up our units. We're going to be working in millimeters. So let's type the word units, UNITS, hit enter, and then we're going to change the precision for lengths. When we are dealing with lengths, we want them to just be as precise as just one integer. And then for the insertion scale, I want to change that to millimeters. And that's it. Hit OK, and that part is done. Next up, we want to set up the limits. So to do that, we type the word limits, Lim. Once you start typing, it's going to show up right at the top there. You hit enter, and then you can see it asks for the lower left corner. You type 0, comma 0, and hit enter. And then for the upper right corner, now this is going to depend on the size of your drawing. So these drawings are going to be relatively small, so I'm just going to type 500 comma 500, enter. Alright, and then finally I'm going to zoom into that space that we just defined, those limits that we just defined. Think of them like boundaries. So we type Z for zoom, hit enter to activate it, and then we can click the all option here, or we could type A for all, hit enter. So now we can see that we zoomed into that space that we just defined. All right, so just a quick explanation of what we just did there. Think about it this way. The model space for AutoCAD is more or less infinite. It can go on in any direction forever. You can keep scrolling forever. But why that is important, think about this. If you were supposed to draw a line that is 100 millimeters, which is very small, on a space that is infinite, that line could look like a dot. It could be, just a speck in compared to infinity. So if we define a smaller limit, 500 by 500, then we essentially can see the line that we just drew, 100 millimeters, relatively large in relation to that space, in relation to that limitation that we gave our model space. So I hope that little explanation made sense. All right, so we already set up the limits. Let me just zoom back into that. There we go. All right, so next step, we want to come to our text style. Click on the icon, and we're going to change that to 3. We are going to be doing all our drawings in millimeters at a scale of 1 to 1. So our text height is going to be 3. Just hit apply and then set current. It should be current by default. All right, let's move on to the standard dimension style here. We just click the icon, the second icon, and then we can come across to modify. Make sure it's on standard. It should be there by default. Hit modify. If we come across to the lines tab, we want to change the extend beyond dimension lines. Now if you look at this, this image is going to keep changing Every time we edit, look at the numbers. It's decimal with the point after it, digits after the point, and you can see the extension lines are touching the object and all of that. As we edit this information, it's going to change this so we can see sort of a preview of how it's going to be. So if we change, first thing we want to change is the extend beyond dimension lines. This line is the extension line. This line that has the dimension, the number, the measurement. This setting changes how much the extension line goes, how much the extension line extends beyond the dimension line. So if I type 1 here and I just tab off of it, you can see this line got longer. Let me just exaggerate it a bit. If I put 10, actually then put 7, you can see the line got longer again. Right, so it extends beyond dimension line. The extension line extends beyond the dimension line by 7 units, but I want it to be 1. And then this one, the offset from origin. The origin is the object. How much do we want the extension line to offset or to stand off from it? So if I change this, you can see you would see a space appear in between. Let me change it to 5, and then we see a space appear in between this line and the object. But I want to put it to 1. So now it's just a slight space of 1 unit. We move on to symbols and arrows. I'm going to leave it as the arrows, but I want to change the arrow size to the same as my text, to 3. I want to change the text. Well, we already established the text height as 3 in the previous um, dialog box. So that's what it's pulling the information from. So we don't need to change anything there. The primary units, we are using decimal, and then the precision, we want to leave it at 0, just a single 0. So before it was 34 point, what, blah, 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 blah. Now it's just 34. All right. And then we can just hit OK and set current, close. All right. So right there is how we set up our model space. In this one, we want to just create a few layers. We might not use all of them, but we're going to create a few layers. So let me come here to layer properties, turn that on, and you would see the pop out at the side here. Click on this button to create a new layer, and we'll call this one construction. So these are going to be our construction lines. They're going to be very thin lines. We're going to leave the color white, the line type as continuous, and the line weight, we want to make it, it's going to be very thin, but not too thin, but visible. So it's very, very thin, but and visible. So I'm going to put it anywhere between 0.05 and 0.13. I'll leave it right there. Hit OK, and then we're going to create another one. We'll call this one the object layer. Any object that we draw, the main object is going to be in this layer so that it will be very distinguishable from any other lines in our drawing. Let's change the color to cyan and leave the line type as continuous, and the line weight, basically the thickness, we want to change that to 0.30. We want it to be very thick so we can see it. And finally, I want to create a text layer. We'll put the color as green. Now you could use whatever colors you want, but I got accustomed to using these colors, so I just continue to use them. And I use them because they stand out on the surface, the model area. If you have a different color model area, you could use different colors. Alright, so the line weight, it doesn't really matter for the text layer, because once I utilize the text tool here, it is going to automatically adjust the line weight of the text so that it will be visible. It doesn't matter what size it's at. Alright, so That's that for creating layers. We set up our units, we set up our limits, and let's get right into some drawings. So head on over to the next video, and I'll see you in the next one.